Have you eaten bread today? Imagine you're standing in your kitchen early in the morning, the sun is shining through the window, and you reach for the familiar loaf of bread on the counter, just like you do every day. Maybe it's the soft white bread you've been buying for years, or those sweet slices of toast that come so conveniently in a package. You spread butter on it, take a bite, and think nothing of it. After all, bread is healthy, isn't it? But what if I told you that this one bite could be more harmful to your health than you could ever imagine? What if the bread you trust, the bread that sits on your table, and that you consider completely harmless, is actually working like a silent saboteur in your body? Here's the shocking truth that the bread industry doesn't want you to know. Not all breads are created equal. In fact, there are 4 specific types of bread that are so dangerous for people over 60 that they can promote inflammation, spike your blood sugar, and even dramatically increase your risk of heart disease and diabetes. At the same time, there are 4 other types of bread that can act like medicine for your body, boosting your energy, improving your digestion, and protecting you from the silent killers of aging. What most people don't know is that a study by Harvard Medical School found that people who consume the wrong types of bread every day have a 43% higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. Another study by the Max Planck Institute for Nutrition Research showed that certain bread ingredients cause chronic inflammation in older adults, which weakens the immune system and accelerates the aging process. Imagine what it would be like to wake up in the morning feeling energized instead of tired and sluggish, when your stomach stays calm instead of being plagued by bloating and discomfort, when your joints are supple instead of stiff and painful. All this can happen when you make the right choices when it comes to bread. Before we dive deeper into this life-saving information, I would like to warmly welcome you to our Clara Vital community. If this information is new to you, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell. Here at Clara Vital, we share life-saving health tips every week that are specifically designed for people over 60. Join our community of over 100,000 people who have already learned how to extend their lives and improve their health by making the right choices. In this video, we'll expose the 4 most dangerous types of bread you should never touch again, and introduce you to the 4 healing types of bread that act like natural medicine for your body. Prepare to be shocked by what you're about to learn. The 4 deadly types of bread you need to avoid. Bread type number 4 that you should never eat: white bread and light-colored toast bread. It's a typical morning. You're standing in the kitchen, opening the plastic packaging and taking out 2 slices of soft, light-colored toast bread. It smells familiar, feels fluffy, and tastes sweet and mild. Millions of people start their day this way. But here's the insidious thing about this seemingly harmless ritual. Every slice of white bread you eat acts like pure sugar in your body. Let me explain what happens in your body in the first few minutes after eating white bread. The flour used to make this bread has been so heavily processed that all the valuable fiber, vitamins, and minerals have been removed. What remains are pure, quickly absorbable carbohydrates that cause your blood sugar to skyrocket like a rocket. Imagine your blood sugar as a calm lake. White bread acts like a large stone thrown into this lake, creating huge waves. Your body reacts in panic and releases massive amounts of insulin to cope with the sugar shock. For people over 60, whose bodies already respond less efficiently to insulin, this is like an alarm signal for the entire metabolism. A study by the University of Toronto found that 2 slices of white bread raise blood sugar as much as 2 tablespoons of pure sugar. That's shocking, but it gets worse. Dr. David Ludwig of Harvard Medical School explains that these repeated blood sugar spikes in older adults lead to insulin resistance, the precursor to type 2 diabetes. But that's not all. White bread often contains a frightening amount of additives and preservatives that are completely unnatural to the human body. Potassium bromate, a flour improver, is suspected of being carcinogenic. Azotic carbonamide, which is also used in yoga mats, serves as a bleaching agent and can cause respiratory problems. These chemicals accumulate in your body over years, putting strain on your liver, kidneys, and immune system. The insidious thing about white bread is that it doesn't fill you up. On the contrary, it triggers a vicious cycle of hunger and cravings. After the initial insulin spike, your blood sugar drops rapidly, leaving you feeling tired, irritable, and hungry. Your body craves more carbohydrates, and the cycle begins again. This is especially dangerous for people over 60 because their metabolism is already working more slowly. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that older adults who regularly consume white bread have a 40% higher risk of abdominal fat, which in turn promotes inflammation throughout the body and increases the risk of heart disease, stroke, and even dementia. How to protect yourself. Next time you go shopping, take a close look at the ingredient list. If wheat flour type 405 or enriched flour is listed first, steer clear. Real healthy bread should be made from whole grain flour, and you should be able to pronounce all the ingredients without needing a degree in chemistry. Bread type number 3 that you should never eat. Industrial multigrain breads with hidden sugar. Imagine you're standing in front of the bread shelf at the supermarket and reaching for a loaf that says multigrain or whole grain on the packaging. The color is an appetizing brown. A few grains are visible in the crust, and the front of the package boasts a green seal promising high in fiber or with valuable grains. You think to yourself, this is healthy, I can eat this with a clear conscience. But here's the bitter truth. Most industrially produced multigrain breads are nothing more than white bread in disguise with a few grains thrown in for good measure. The bread industry has perfected how to make unhealthy bread look healthy, and millions of people fall for it every day. Here's the problem. These breads often contain more sugar than a can of cola. Yes, you heard right. A standard multigrain bread can contain up to 4 grams of sugar per slice. That's 8 grams of sugar in 2 slices before you've even spread jam or honey on it. For comparison, a sugar cube weighs about 3 grams, so you're eating almost 3 sugar cubes just from the bread alone. Why does the industry do this? It's simple. Sugar is addictive and improves the taste. It makes the bread look fresher for longer and extends its shelf life. But for your body, especially if you are over 60, it is like a slow-acting poison. A frightening study by the German Nutrition Society found that people who consume industrial multigrain bread every day, unknowingly, consume up to 20 grams of hidden sugar. That's equivalent to about 5 sugar cubes a day, just from bread. Over the course of a year, that's almost 2 kilograms of pure sugar that you consume without knowing it. The insidious thing is that this hidden sugar is often masked on the ingredient list. It hides behind names such as glucose-fructose syrup, malt extract, barley malt, cane sugar syrup, or even natural sweetener. To the untrained consumer, these terms sound harmless or even healthy, but they all have the same effect. They cause your blood sugar to skyrocket. Dr. Robert Lustig, a renowned endocrinologist at the University of California, warns that hidden sugar in supposedly healthy foods is one of the main causes of the diabetes epidemic among older adults. Your body cannot distinguish between the sugar in a chocolate bar and the hidden sugar in your healthy multigrain bread. The effect is the same: inflammation, weight gain, and an increased risk of chronic diseases. Even more alarming is that these breads are often enriched with artificial fiber to make them appear healthy. But these synthetic fibers are not the same as the natural fiber found in real whole grains. They can even cause digestive problems and disrupt your gut flora. A study by the Max Planck Institute showed that older people who regularly eat sugar-rich bread have a 35% higher risk of inflammation in the gut, which in turn leads to a weaker immune system and poorer nutrient absorption. How to spot these traps? Take a close look at the ingredient list. If sugar, syrup, or a sweet-sounding additive is listed in the first 5 ingredients, don't buy it. Real whole grain bread does not need added sugar. Look for terms such as whole wheat or whole rye as the first ingredient, not just wheat or enriched flour. Bread type number 2 that you should never eat: bake-off rolls and ready-made baked goods. It's Sunday morning, and you feel like fresh rolls for breakfast. The smell of warm bread fills the kitchen as the golden brown bake-off rolls come out of the oven. They are crispy, convenient, and taste like they're fresh from the bakery. But behind this facade of comfort lies one of the most dangerous bread traps for people over 60. What most people don't realize is that bake-off rolls and ready-baked products are veritable chemical cocktails, packed with preservatives, emulsifiers, and artificial additives that can burden your body and systematically undermine your health. Let me tell you what's really in these seemingly harmless rolls. A typical bake-off roll contains an average of 15 to 20 different additives. These include phosphates, which put strain on your kidneys and can contribute to bone loss in older people. Emulsifiers such as E471 and E481, which attack your intestinal mucosa and promote inflammation. Preservatives such as calcium propionate, which is associated with headaches and irritability. But that's not the worst of it. These rolls often contain hydrogenated fats and trans fats, which act like rust in your arteries. A study by the Harvard School of Public Health found that just 2 grams of trans fats a day increase the risk of heart disease by 23%. A single bake-off roll can contain up to 1.5 grams of these dangerous fats. Dr. Frank Hu, professor of nutrition and epidemiology at Harvard, warns, trans fats are completely unnecessary and harmful to the human body. They raise bad cholesterol, lower good cholesterol, and promote inflammation throughout the body. For people over 60, whose cardiovascular system is already under greater strain, it's like playing Russian roulette with their health. The insidious thing about bake-off products is their high content of refined oils and hidden sugars. Many contain palm oil, which not only destroys the environment, but is also highly inflammatory. A study by the University of Barcelona showed that people who regularly consume baked goods containing palm oil have higher inflammation markers in their blood and an increased risk of arthritis and other joint diseases. Then there is the problem of acrylamides. These carcinogenic substances are produced when starchy foods are heated at high temperatures. Bake-off rolls, which are often baked at over 200 degrees, contain particularly high levels of acrylamide. The European Food Safety Authority warns that acrylamides can increase the risk of cancer and damage the nervous system. A particularly alarming study by the German Federal Institute for Risk Assessment found that older people who regularly consume ready-made baked goods have a 45% higher risk of colon cancer than those who eat fresh, natural baked goods. But there is another, often overlooked aspect: preservation. To make bake-off rolls shelf-stable for months, they are treated with oxygen absorbers and preservative gases. These substances can accumulate in your body and put strain on your liver, which already works less efficiently in people over 60. Imagine what it's like when your body has to fight these chemicals every day, instead of using its energy for healing and vitality. Many people over 60 complain of fatigue, concentration problems, and a weak immune system without realizing that their daily bake-off rolls could be a major cause. Here's how you can protect yourself. Avoid all baked goods that were not freshly baked on the same day. When you buy bread, go to a real baker who still bakes it themselves, or bake your own bread. Yes, it may be more time-consuming, but your health is worth it. If you look at the ingredient list of a bake-off roll and see more than 5 ingredients you don't know what they are, leave it alone. Bread type number 1 that you should never eat: gluten-free, industrial breads. And now we come to the most shocking revelation of all. The type of bread that is advertised as a healthy alternative, that people buy because they think they are doing something good for their bodies, turns out to be the most insidious health killer of all: industrially produced gluten-free bread. Let me tell you a story that will change your understanding of healthy bread forever. Martha, a 68-year-old retiree from Munich, had started eating gluten-free bread because she had heard it was better for digestion. Within 6 months, she had gained 18 pounds. Her blood sugar had skyrocketed, and she felt constantly tired and bloated. What had happened? The shocking truth is that industrial gluten-free breads are often the unhealthiest breads available. They contain more sugar, more harmful additives, and fewer nutrients than almost all other types of bread. The industry has exploited the gluten-free trend to lure people in with promises of health, while actually selling them one of the most harmful products available. Here's the problem: when you remove gluten from bread, you have to replace it with something else to maintain the texture and taste. And what do manufacturers replace it with? A cocktail of refined starches, sugars, and chemicals that wreak havoc on your body. A typical industrial gluten-free bread is made from rice starch, corn starch, potato starch, and tapioca starch. These refined starches have an even higher glycemic index than white bread. That means they cause your blood sugar to rise even faster and higher than the worst white bread. A study by the University of Sydney found that gluten-free bread can have a glycemic index of 90 compared to 70 for regular white bread. Imagine that. You think you're eating something healthy, but in reality, it's acting like pure sugar on steroids in your body. For people over 60 who already have an increased risk of diabetes, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire. But it gets worse. To make these tasteless starches palatable, manufacturers pump their gluten-free breads full of sugar, fat, and a frightening amount of additives. Xanthan gum, used to improve texture, can cause digestive problems in many people. Hydroxypropyl methylcellulose, a binding agent also used in building materials, can cause nausea and stomach pain. A shocking analysis by the Consumer Reports found that gluten-free breads contain on average 40% more sugar and 50% more fat than comparable regular breads. At the same time, they have 60% less fiber and 70% less protein. So you're paying more money for a product that's worse for you than the cheapest white bread. Dr. Stefano Guandolini, director of the University of Chicago Celiac Disease Center, warns, many people without celiac disease believe that gluten-free products are healthier. The opposite is true. These products are often low in nutrients and full of unhealthy additives. The insidious thing is that these breads are often marketed with a health halo. They cost 3 to 4 times as much as regular bread, and people buy them believing they are investing in their health. In reality, they are sabotaging their health and emptying their wallets in the process. A long-term study by the Mayo Clinic showed that people without celiac disease who switch to a gluten-free diet have a higher risk of heart disease because they eat fewer heart-healthy whole grains and instead consume these refined, sugar-rich substitute products. This is particularly dangerous for people over 60 because their bodies are already less efficient at absorbing nutrients. If they then eat breads that contain hardly any nutrients but cause blood sugar levels to skyrocket, it's like an attack on their health from within. The bitter irony is that most people who eat gluten-free bread are not gluten intolerant. Only about 1% of the population suffers from celiac disease, and another 3 to 6% have a proven gluten sensitivity. For everyone else, gluten is completely harmless, and they are only harming themselves by switching to gluten-free industrial products. The 4 healing breads you should definitely eat. But enough of the bad news. Now comes the hopeful part. There are actually types of bread that are not only harmless, but can actively help your health. These 4 types of bread are like natural medicine for your body, especially if you are over 60. Bread type number 1 that you should definitely eat. Real whole grain sourdough bread. Imagine walking into a traditional bakery and being enveloped by the aroma of real, slowly fermented sourdough bread. This is not just a sensory experience, it is the scent of health. Real whole grain sourdough bread is perhaps the healthiest bread you can eat, and for people over 60, it is like a gift from nature. But here's the important thing. Not every bread that says sourdough on the label is real sourdough bread. Many manufacturers use artificial acidifiers and still call it sourdough. Real sourdough bread is made from only 3 ingredients: whole grain flour, water, and salt. The sourdough starter that drives fermentation consists of wild yeasts and lactic acid bacteria that are cultivated over days or even weeks. Why is this so important for your health? The fermentation process of sourdough is like pre-digestion. The natural bacteria and yeasts break down the hard-to-digest components of the grain, making the nutrients more readily available to your body. This is especially important for people over 60, whose digestive systems often don't work as efficiently as they used to. A groundbreaking study by the University of Hohenheim found that real sourdough bread reduces blood sugar spikes by up to 30% compared to regular bread. This is because fermentation changes the starch structure and significantly lowers the glycemic index. For people with diabetes or pre-diabetes, this is a blessing, but the benefits go far beyond blood sugar. Dr. Marco Gabetti, a leading fermentation expert at the University of Bari, explains, sourdough fermentation produces bioactive peptides that have anti-inflammatory properties and strengthen the immune system. These peptides are particularly valuable for older people whose immune systems are often weakened. The fermentation process also makes the minerals in the grain more readily available. Phytic acid, which normally blocks the absorption of iron, zinc, and magnesium, is broken down by fermentation. This means that your body can better absorb and utilize these important nutrients. A long-term study by the University of Helsinki showed that people who regularly eat real whole grain sourdough bread have a 20% lower risk of heart disease and better gut health. The lactic acid bacteria in sourdough act like probiotics and support healthy gut flora. How to recognize real sourdough bread? It should contain only a few natural ingredients. The dough should have been fermented for at least 12 to 24 hours. Real sourdough bread is often denser and has a characteristic sour taste. It stays fresh longer than regular bread because the acids are natural preservatives. Bread type number 2 that you should definitely eat. Sprouted bread. Here's a secret that most people don't know. The healthiest bread in the world is not made from flour, but from sprouted grains. Sprouted bread, also known as sprouting bread, is like concentrated life force in bread form. And for people over 60, it can have a revolutionary effect on health. Imagine what happens when a grain begins to sprout. It comes to life. Enzymes are activated, nutrients are released, and the dormant potential of the plant awakens. This is exactly the life force you get when you eat sprouted bread. The sprouting process transforms the grain into a veritable nutrient bomb. Vitamin C increases by up to 600%. B vitamins are increased by 200 to 500%, and the availability of minerals such as iron and zinc triples. A study by Cornell University showed that sprouted grains contain up to 10 times more antioxidants than unsprouted grains. But here's the really impressive part. The sprouting process breaks down complex carbohydrates, making them easier to digest. At the same time, the protein content increases, and the protein quality improves dramatically. Dr. Srinivasan Damodaran from the University of Wisconsin explains, during germination, proteins are broken down into their amino acids, which makes them much easier for the body to use. This is especially important for people over 60, because protein digestion declines with age. Sprouted bread provides high-quality, easily digestible protein that keeps your muscles strong and counteracts age-related muscle loss. The secret lies in the enzymes. During the sprouting process, natural digestive enzymes are produced that help your body absorb nutrients optimally. It's as if nature has done the work of pre-digesting the food, so that your body has to work less and can get more out of it. A fascinating study by Johns Hopkins University found that people who regularly eat sprouted bread have lower inflammation markers in their blood and a stronger immune system. This is due to the high levels of antioxidants and bioactive compounds that are produced during the germination process. Bread type number 3 that you should definitely eat. Traditional whole grain rye bread. When you think of Germany, you probably think of dark, hearty rye bread. And for good reason. Traditional whole grain rye bread is one of the healthiest breads in the world and a real treasure for people over 60. Rye is not just a grain, it is medicine in bread form. Rye has unique properties that distinguish it from other grains. It contains special fibers called arabinoxylans, which act as food for your good gut bacteria. A healthy gut flora is especially important for people over 60 because it strengthens the immune system and reduces inflammation. Dr. Kaisa Putanen, from the VTT Technical Research Center in Finland, one of the world's leading rye researchers, explains, rye contains more soluble fiber than any other common grain. This fiber not only lowers cholesterol levels, but also stabilizes blood sugar for hours. An impressive study by the University of Kuopio followed 2,000 people over 10 years and found that those who ate whole grain rye bread daily had a 35% lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Even more astonishingly, their risk of colon cancer was reduced by 47%. But rye can do even more. It contains natural lignans, which are plant compounds that act like weak estrogens. For women over 60, these lignans can help alleviate menopausal symptoms and reduce the risk of osteoporosis. In men, they can even lower the risk of prostate cancer. Another special feature of rye bread is its low glycemic index. While white bread causes your blood sugar to skyrocket, rye bread keeps it stable. This is due to the complex carbohydrates and high fiber content, which slow down sugar absorption. A study by Charité Berlin showed that people who eat rye bread instead of white bread feel fuller for longer and consume fewer calories throughout the day. This can help with weight control, which is a challenge for many people over 60. Rye is also rich in magnesium, a mineral that is essential for heart health. Many people over 60 are deficient in magnesium without knowing it. 2 slices of real whole grain rye bread can provide up to 20% of your daily magnesium requirement. Bread type number 4 that you should definitely eat. Oat and spelt bread. The last bread on our list of healing breads is perhaps the most surprising. Oat and spelt bread. This combination of 2 ancient grains is like a superfood in bread form and offers special benefits for people over 60. Oats are known for their cholesterol-lowering properties, but most people only eat them as oatmeal for breakfast. In bread form, oats unleash their full power. The soluble fiber beta-glucan in oats acts like a sponge for cholesterol and bile acids, helping to transport them out of the body. A groundbreaking study by Harvard Medical School followed 88,000 nurses over 16 years and found that those who regularly consumed oats had a 15% lower risk of heart disease. For people over 60 who already have an increased risk of heart disease, this can be life-saving. Spelt. The other grain in this healing combination is an ancient grain that contains many nutrients that have been lost in modern wheat. Spelt is richer in protein, magnesium, zinc, and B vitamins than regular wheat. It also has a different gluten structure that many people tolerate better than regular wheat gluten. Dr. Andreas Berner, from the Leibniz Institute of Plant Genetics, explains, spelt has been less genetically modified than modern wheat over thousands of years. As a result, It has better retained its original health-promoting properties. The combination of oats and spelt creates a bread with a uniquely balanced nutrient profile. It provides long-lasting energy without blood sugar spikes, high-quality protein for muscle maintenance, and a wealth of minerals and vitamins that the aging body particularly needs. A study by the University of Gießen showed that people who eat oat and spelt bread every day have lower inflammation levels and suffer less frequently from joint pain. This is due to the anti-inflammatory compounds in both grains. How to make the right choices. Now that you know the truth about good and bad breads, you may be wondering, how can I make sure I'm making the right choices? The answer is simpler than you think, but it does require some attention and practice. First, learn to read labels like a detective. The ingredient list is your most important tool. Real healthy bread should have only a few ingredients, and you should be able to pronounce each one. If you see terms like glucose-fructose syrup, modified starch, or emulsifier E471, steer clear. Pay attention to the order of the ingredients. The first ingredient makes up the largest proportion. In healthy bread, this should be whole wheat flour or whole rye, not just wheat flour or enriched flour. Another important point, healthy bread is often heavier and denser than industrial bread. This is due to the natural ingredients and the absence of leavening agents. If a loaf of bread is suspiciously light, this is often a sign of a lot of air and few nutrients. The price can also be an indicator. High-quality bread costs more than mass-produced bread, but remember, you are investing in your health. The few extra dollars you spend on good bread can save you thousands in medical bills in the long run. Look for small traditional bakeries in your area. Many still bake according to old recipes using natural ingredients and long fermentation times. Don't be afraid to ask how the bread is made. A good baker will be proud to explain their methods to you. If you have to shop at a supermarket, look for bread in the organic section. Organic breads often have fewer additives and come from controlled cultivation. But here too, read the ingredient list. Another option is to bake your own bread. This may seem daunting at first, but simple sourdough breads are easier to make than you think. There are many online guides and courses that can help you. Baking your own bread gives you complete control over the ingredients and can become a fulfilling hobby. The transformation starts today. Take a moment to think about how different your life could be if you implemented these simple but powerful changes. Imagine waking up in the morning feeling energized instead of sluggish. Your stomach is calm and relaxed, not bloated and restless. Your joints feel flexible, not stiff and painful. This isn't fantasy. It's the promise that the right types of bread can deliver. Every meal is an opportunity to help or harm your body. And the beauty of it is, the choice is yours. Start small. You don't have to change your entire diet overnight. Start by swapping your white bread for real whole grain sourdough bread. Try rye bread instead of your usual toast for a week. Experiment with sprouted grain bread or oat and spelt bread. Pay attention to the changes in your body. Many people notice positive effects after just a few days. More stable energy levels, better digestion, fewer cravings. These small improvements can add up to big changes in your quality of life. Share this information with people who are important to you, your family, your friends, your neighbors. They can all benefit from this knowledge. Getting healthier together is not only more fun, it also reinforces the positive effects. Remember, every slice of bread you eat is a choice between health or illness, energy or fatigue, a long vital life or a life full of ailments. You have the power to make this choice, and now you have the knowledge to do so. If this video has opened your eyes, share it with others. Press the like button if you found this information helpful. And don't forget to subscribe to our Klar Vital channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our life-saving health tips. Write to us in the comments. What type of bread have you been eating without knowing its dangers? And which healthy alternative will you try first? We read every comment and look forward to hearing about your experiences. Your health is in your hands, and sometimes it's the simplest changes that have the biggest impact. Choosing the right bread is one of those simple changes that can transform your life. See you in the next video, where we'll reveal more secrets for a healthy, energetic life after 60. Until then, stay healthy, stay strong, and make the right choices for your well-being.